that.
But Bernstein and Holmes said it, damn it.
Yeah, it must be true.
Gotta be
They
true.
heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy, so.
You know what's always true? Fitzgibberish.
Fitzgibberish.
Let's give these people some Fitzgibberish, and then let's move on to some sports and stop talking politics.
All right. Yes, it's a strange Fitzgibberish today. It's a diatribe of conspiracy and an island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talk like the Bernstein and Holmes show. The geeks, dorks, losers, nerds, dweebs, etc. are winning.
We're never getting hired by 670.
Or even have won. They own all the tech firms that dominate the stock market and indeed the world. Mostly, I say it's about fucking time. Do you know one reason why? I am most times a fucking dork. I read, I watch Star Trek, am a gijumbus, as my son would say, fan of the Twilight Zone, and yes, get excited when a new telescope comes out so we can see more of the cosmos. Did you play something?
Yeah, I was trying to share it on my phone and it just came up with volume. My bad.
No, it's all right. That's what Fitzgibberish is all about. Even my niece, Isabel, calls me Uncle Dork. So nerds, though, are usually conscientious, dutiful, and shall I say even chivalric. The only problem is when a lot of power is collected by a small group of ugly, would-be forever virgins, it does corrupt. Lord Acton said, power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Lord Acton was a 19th century British historian, so you know he was a maximum dweeb. But he is right, because these losers have been corrupted. Absolutely. Fellow podcasters, maybe we're not exactly fellow podcasters, but fellow podcasters are getting their podcasts taken off of YouTube all the time. Just one tech company that it's censoring itself, like a dad in his 40s who takes his family to Hooters. That's a thing now. Theo Vaughn got his 2 particular podcasts the past weekend taken off of YouTube. One taken off with presidential hopeful Robert Francis Kennedy Jr., an Irish Catholic. He is the nephew of the most powerful president in history. And what was the podcast about? Falconry. YouTube would not respond while they took it down, but maybe it was because RFK Jr. is critical of the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. I'm waving to my son. And what was the podcast about? Yeah, sorry, same line. YouTube would not respond, though. Why? The same industry that has cracked the top 5 as the 3rd leading cause of death, that's the pharmaceutical industry. How dare he be critical of them? He is running on bringing the country together, fixing rundown healthcare industry, and getting corporate money out of politics. What a horrible platform to run on. When RFK Jr. was supposed to come back on Vaughn's show, Vaughn could not allow him for fear of losing his livelihood. That's self-censorship. Another one of the podcasts that was taken down was with the ever singular Roseanne Barr. I listened to the entire podcast, and the worst thing that was said was about Roseanne's torn up coochie. Usually these podcasting giants, and they do outdraw most news organizations, are given a strike. Yes, 3 strikes, and you are out. You are not on YouTube ever again. And you cannot post for a week when you receive one of these strikes. YouTube's kind of like a drunk parent grounding their kid for having a drunk parent. Furthermore, if we were popular, I don't see one of my Fitzgibberishes that would be allowed to stay on YouTube. And that would really ruin Combs' day. What does YouTube or the other media sites say when they do remove these episodes? It was misinformation. What a ridiculously blanketed term. If you're going to mess with someone's livelihood, you better get a hell of a lot more specific than that. I could say on this podcast that I have a 56-inch python arms, and you could call that misinformation, But why don't you come over and measure them? Why don't you get a little bit more specific? What does this have to do with sports? Well, usually Fitzgibberish, not much, but nothing is this country is siloed anymore. We talked around the Super Bowl about how they went after Terry Bradshaw's head for daring to ask Andy Reid to waddle over. An obvious reference to Andy Reid being a walrus. And guess what? He looks like a goddamn walrus.
He does.
He does. And Terry Bradshaw, for Christ's sake, the guy's vanilla ice cream. And we were just talking right now about Pat Fitzgerald, all the hazing aside, who coined the phrase "good, clean American fun," which some of his ex-players are calling racist. Why? No specific reason. We just want him gone. This same thing happened during, like I said, McCarthyism, where the senator could point a finger and say you were a communist with no proof or reasoning, and you were blackballed, and you probably lost your job too. How can subversiveness, the very edge of new ideas, be freely discussed in this atmosphere? It can't. And when it can't, you don't have freedom. And with no freedom, you don't have democracy anymore. Without this free discussion, America will stop innovating. You'll have the Bernstein and Holmes show and entertainment with the constant reference to, oh, that movie could never be made right now. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. How dare you tell me that? I'm an American, goddammit. And that used to stand for something in this world. Let freedom ring and give hope to the hopeless. And all that crap that we say every 4th of July. It was supposed to be different, you bunch of losers. When the dorks took over, it was supposed to be different. I leave you tonight with a brilliant wrap-up by the last episode of Twilight Zone's first season, titled "The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street," by the immortal genius Rod Serling, creator of the show, the guy talking with the cigarette. The plot of the episode is about a small neighborhood block who, when the power goes out, the townsfolk start singling out each other for being traitors, aliens, and monsters. When the lights come back on, it reveals who the real monsters were: the neighbors of Maple Street. This is the last line and the sum up of the episode.
The tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices, to be found only in the minds of men. For the record, prejudices can kill, and suspicion can destroy. And a thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat has a fallout all of its own. For the children, and the children yet unborn. And the pity of it is that these things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone.
And that's Fitzgibberish, my friends.